All right. Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we have a good one for you this morning. We have Kevin Henderson, CEO and founder of Leaders of Change, and we have Arthur Soriano, founder of Youth Empowerment. And our topic is ending gang violence by addressing the needs of our youth. And so we're going to get really into that. But right now, what I want to do is I want to share with you about a program that I presented to the City Council Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee meeting. And it has something to deal with creating a program for the summertime to keep our youth busy with jobs and activities, and also be able to disrupt violence, because we know that during the peak months of the summer, from July 4th to Labor Day, we have a lot of violence and it picks up. So we want to try to get ahead of that, because right now we have some violence that's been picking up right now that's leading into the summer. And most of the time, if we don't pay attention, we see the warning signs ahead of time, and if we don't get on it, then it's going to get out of control. So we want to get into that. But I want to share with you a program that I want to present that originated out of LA, and it's called the Summer Night Lights in San Diego. And and for short, it's called SNL, Saturday Night Live, like Saturday Night Live, but this is Summer Night Lights, all right? So the SNL is based upon the 2003 Summer of Success Baldwin Village program at Jim Gilliam Park. And the Saturday Summer Night Lights integrates gang prevention, intervention, community, and law enforcement strategies to address violence in neighborhoods adjacent to parks and recreational centers across the city in gang-infested communities for 8 weeks during the summer. This is from July 4th through Labor Day. Programming is extended to communities and their residents from 7 p.m. until midnight. And this goes from Wednesday through Saturday, when potential for a violent crime is at its highest in the city. So the SNL began in 2008 at 8 recreational and park facilities in Los Angeles. And it expanded to 16 sites in 2009, to 24 in 2010, and most recently to 32 locations in 2011. Numerous organizational partners participate in the Summer Night Lights, including city agencies, nonprofits, the faith-based community, local foundations, because that's where the money is, and businesses. The SNL approach is rooted in the philosophy of focusing on behavior rather than identity as a vehicle to violence reduction. That way it keeps you from stopping a lot of these guys and harassing a lot of these guys, arresting a lot of these guys. We're addressing we ain't addressing who did it, but we're addressing what is the problem. So the core of SNL components are extended programming, and that includes a variety of activities such as the provision of meals, cooking classes, athletic programming, arts programming, and other skills-based programs. And this focus on the area of primary prevention. So this is prevention. This is not intervention here. And then you have what we call the youth squad. These are at-risk and high-risk youth from the community who are hired to help plan and implement Summer Night Lights, summer activities, and to act as a community liaison in 10-person teams. And this is secondary prevention. And so then we move to intervention, which deals with community intervention workers, and they engage in proactive peacemaking activities as well as violence interruption throughout the Summer Night Lights program in the summertime. This is what we call intervention. And then you have law enforcement, community engagement. You would have the San Diego Police Department would be an active participant in the Summer Night Lights through sports, cooking, arts activity, as well as community interactions, which includes enforcement. This will create more than 1,000 summer jobs for youth, community members, leaders, and businesses in neighborhoods within the surrounding the park sites. Park sites would be 10 parks in high crime and gang infested communities, and these are some of the ones I named. We can most definitely switch up and do some other parks, but these are some of the parks that I named based on the communities where I see most likely violent crimes, gang violent crimes will be committed. And this is number 1, Memorial Park. Number 2, Southcrest Park or Mountain View. Number 3, Gompers Neighborhood Park or Allen Neighborhood Park. Number 4, John F. Kennedy Park or Lincoln High School Park. Number 5, Martin Luther King or Junior Recreation Center. Number 6, Colina del Sol Park. Number 7, Skyline Hills Rec Park. And number 8, Emerald Hills Neighborhood Park. Number 9, Mira Mesa Park and Rec. And number 10, Linda Vista Community Park and Rec. And so we can change and add some of those, but these are some of the parks I think we need to focus on, and those surrounding communities and neighborhoods where we can actually step in there and make a difference and prevent the loss of life and prevent folks from getting injured, from getting beat down, jumped on, stabbed, shot, and so on. So the Saturday Night Live, or I shouldn't say Saturday, Summer Night Light programs and components are, we talk about the youth squad. And this is 10 at-risk and high-risk youth hired from the Summer Nights Light neighborhood to recruit participants and help to coordinate programming at each park. And then you have the intervention component, which these guys will establish and maintain peace treaties between rival neighborhoods. I'm talking about these gangs in each Summer Nights Light neighborhood, and provided on-site community-based mediation of potential conflicts. And I was talking with a young man that was sharing with me because they wanted to get some of the parks together, get some of the OGs from different sets together, and come to the park, barbecue, play some games and things like that. And they wanted to bring various sets together. And one of the things I said, that's a good thing to do, but we've got to first organize each community and prep their minds to get ready for that. Because if you just bring folks together and they're rivals, anything might happen to jump off. But I think ultimately that's what we want to see, and that's what we want to do, is be able to bring some of these parks together, and maybe playing basketball, baseball game together, or whatever else, whatever other ideals that we come up with. So just one final note, and because I know a lot of times the first thing that everybody look at and the question they want to ask is, what about the finances of it? So financial support for Summer Nights Light should come from private sector contributors, as well as from San Diego counties and city funds. Under the Summer Nights Light program, these 4 evenings each week of the 2-month period, we have local parks and recreation centers across the city host a range of activities. And it would include meals, because when I talked with the gentleman that as part of this in LA, he said every night they feed over 500 people. And can you imagine that, 500 people? And so we don't know how many we'll be able to reach every night, but we would have free food for everybody and get folks to donate the food, get people to donate to cook the food, or volunteers to cook the food, and get and have that going also. So it would include community getting involved also with this. And we would also have program managers and teams of gang and violence intervention specialists are present at each location during the Summer Nights Lights hours of operation, working to extend the reduction of inter-gang conflict and violence beyond the 2 months of the Summer Nights Lights. So that means this will, even though we hit those 2 months, it expand even further than that, because we want to keep this going. And of course, we bring everybody and get everybody involved in this. And so when we look at recent violence in the past couple of months, it has been quite busy. And I believe things could get worse, and this could be the year that things become uncontrollable. Now, what I notice is most folks do not want to do anything until there's a lot of blood in the streets. But that would be too late, right? So we should not have to wait until we have lost a lot of lives in our community to say, see, I told you so. Because we know and we see it coming, but we don't want to say, see, I told you so. We want to do something about it. But that is what's all about what's about to happen, right? Is that if we don't do something about this, we're going to see blood spilled into the streets. And if we don't get in front of this violence, it's going to be a serious problem. So the streets are talking, and I'm hearing from a lot of these guys. Some of these guys are active, and some of these guys are trying to come out. But I'm hearing them. I'm hearing what they're saying. And a lot of our youth are up in arms. And an explosion is about to happen. So we are working hard to keep the peace. But right when you nail down one end of violence, you get a couple guys to a couple gangs from these OGs from these gangs to say, okay, we're gonna chill out. Then someone else that you haven't talked to start acting up. So right now we're trying to nail it down, but we don't have the resources to keep all ends nailed down. And so I would like to see a truce between rival gangs and an end to all violence. I believe it is within reach, and we have two experts here in our studio today, and they're going to discuss this matter with us, and we're going to hear from them. So I want to introduce Kevin Henderson and Arthur Soriano, and I want to say to you, welcome to What's Happening Now, and thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So, can you, and I'll start with you, Brother Kev, can you tell us about your program, and then we get to Arthur?
Absolutely. First, I want to thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be in the midst of those who I know have a true concern
Amen.
for community and the young people.
Yes.
Leaders of Change kind of got started around 2011, and the way we got started was implementing a ceasefire in the community, and it happened at the Jacob Center. And so we got together with a lot of gang involved, OGs who were no longer gang involved, to come to the table and have a conversation.
Right.
We also invited a lot of community leaders to come in and speak about ideas on how we could brainstorm on stopping the gang violence, what we needed to do as a community to stand behind that, and put some things in place as far as programming for young people, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for having. That's kind of the Leaders of Change program that we have, and of course we have a lot of people involved. I personally contract with a lot of agencies here in San Diego. I work with agencies like Y2Y Center, Metro, anyone who has, programming for young people. So that's what Leaders of Change is about.
Yeah, and thank you, Brother Kev, because you with the wraparound that we do on Mondays with
absolutely,
you.
Absolutely, and the wraparound.
The best R&B plus weekend talk. KBLK San Diego.
All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com, and thank you for staying with us. And this is your host, Bishop Bowden. We have with us Kevin Henderson with Leaders of Change and Arthur Soriano with Youth Empowerment. And we were just talking with Arthur, and continue what you was sharing with us about the park thing.
The park philosophy, it's a beautiful thing because it's grassroots. It's on the ground. You get engaged with the community, and I've seen that model work firsthand for the last year and a half, because it first started with some taggers from different sections. They beat each other with baseball bats. There was broken arms, broken legs, and that's when we came in. That's when we came in and started wrapping around not only the youth and the families, but the park. We just generally started wrapping around the whole park, and we've seen it work within a year and a half. There's been progress. There's been crime reduction, and that area is a hotspot. Plenty of crime happening left and right all day, every day. So it works.
Right.
And getting other parks, like certain gang members from different areas with other gangs, and having former gang members police the area and for security, I believe it could work.
Amen. And part of our problem, and this is where our real problem is we do our job so well. To where that, politicians and organizations begin to see, like, we don't have to give you no resource to pay you. You're getting the job done. That's part of our struggle, to get them to understand that we could be so much superb and way more effective if we had the resources that we need. We're going to do this work regardless, but we do our job too well.
Absolutely, and that's one of the challenges, because we have all these individuals like yourself, like you as well, Arthur, who have ideas and who have been doing this for such a long time, and we do it so well that these people that have this funding, they come to you and say, hey, Kevin, Pastor Bowser, hey, Arthur, how you do this? And we want you to do this. But they don't want to put nothing behind it.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't want to put no funding behind it, and that's part of the problem, man. If you get these funding from these government agencies, And we have all these agencies in San Diego, a lot of agencies.
Yeah.
But after those funding is after the funding is gone, 2 or 3 years, because there's follow up. You have a program, then you have a follow up after that, and the money gone. Youth seem to go back to their same behaviors. You got to have something in place.
Keep them
that
going all the time.
I say it all the time. That handoff is important.
Exactly.
You got them in the program. You got my attention. I'm a gang member. You got my attention. You got my investment. And then after 2 or 3 years, you're gone. I'm going back to my behaviors.
That's right.
So we got to be very careful on that handoff process.
Yeah, exactly. That follow through. Yeah. So Kevin, you talked about Leaders of Change and how you organize and things like that. But what really moved you at that time? What moved you in your heart to start Leaders of Change?
Well, I tell you, it was. I was in a place to where I had been to probably around 45 at that time, 45 or 50 funerals.
Right.
And some from my community, some from other communities, and what we didn't have anything in place for those families. We didn't have anything in place to address the trauma that a young person would go through by losing their brother or sister, or their dad, or their mothers losing their sons. It just wasn't nothing in place. So it was important to me, after being because I was a part of I'm a consultant for Youth Build, and traveling nationally and seeing this is a national problem.
Yeah.
This is just not a San Diego problem. This is a national problem, and those things that exist are common. I lost my brother, or I'm in school with someone, and then they're killed in gang violence. What am I to do? Where's my support? Where's the family support? So that kind of ignited the flame to begin Leaders of Change. And I was working with some folks. I was working with, of course, Conrad Harris at the time, with Overcoming Gangs, and a lot of other successful programs. But the same problem exists, brother. It's the same problem. Nobody wants to give funding to those who had no support.
Exactly.
So that's why I started the Leaders of Change organization.
Amen. Now, Arthur, how were you able to bring everyone together at the park, especially bringing all those G's? Because I know, we've done that and tried that, but keeping it together. And you've been doing it for a while, keeping it together. How did you do that?
The history, I have a history of being incarcerated from juvenile hall to prison, and being involved with a lot of main players, and having a reputation in that past lifestyle, and being loved in another way, negative way, positive way. So they seen that leadership skill, they seen the struggles that I've been through, and everything that I experienced. So it went from one thing to completely opposite to the next.
Amen.
So everybody was thirsty, like, okay, is this guy for real? Is he just doing this work because he's trying to play the system? He's trying to get off probation? He's trying to get off parole? What's going on?
Basically, you just fresh too.
I'm just fresh off the pot. I'm just fresh off the pot. Just coming out with all this love, and the love, just showing everybody love, and engaging the community. Like, let's do this. Let's come as a community. Forget all these people that are trying to fund this, and that. Let's get this together. Let's pass that hat around. If someone needs some help, if someone needs some groceries, we'll just put a little $5 here, and let's just get it done.
Yes.
So the passion and the love of just loving my area, but now just loving it in a constructive way, not a negative way, is and just constantly engaging, motivating, inspiring, and the numbers just start growing. They start growing. But like Kevin said, when you get these gang members that are on the trend, that they want to change, you need to feed them something. You keep on. They want jobs.
Yeah.
They need assistance.
Yes.
And then that's when you can see the compassion fatigue kick in too. So we need to do something about that, where we inspire these gentlemen and lead them to something constructive.
Right. Amen. And it's the love. I heard you. It's the love that's the bond. That keeps it together, that love, and that compassion. And of course, as you say, we got to have those resources to keep us, to keep it, because I know so many great people out there that can really get involved and really help us have a greater impact, especially disrupting violence and keeping the peace. But a lot of these guys already have jobs and families and things like that. They can focus a little time, but they can focus a lot of time on this. And this is like a full-time thing, round the clock, type of work, especially when you're dealing with the youth and the families and so on. That's work. And that's what people don't understand. They don't see the real work that's taking place just to keep from these guys recidivism and going, reoffending or violating probation. That's a lot of work. And people don't see that.
Absolutely. And who's going to care about, coming from the communities that we come from, who's going to care about those communities other than us?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What was a motivating factor for me starting Leaders of Change was once I was mentored, because it came from someone mentoring me once I got out, because I was also incarcerated. Once I came home from prison, I was fortunate enough and blessed to be able to start volunteering at Metro, and they were in a community that I grew up in.
Right.
And I was getting those letters from folks who never ever coming home again, saying, "Hey man, my daughter, my son, my nephew, my niece, can you help them?" So that was that was the motivating factor for me to get involved with our young people, because even though we give them all these titles, gang members, thugs, or whatever, these are folks that we care about.
That's right.
These are people that we love. These are people who just need some type of direction or resources to get to have that longevity in life, man. Because when you try to teach a young person, you try to stop them from being gang involved, and you don't have nothing to give them, they're gonna keep doing what they do.
That's right.
Where is the accredited training or the accredited programs that's going to bring longevity to themselves and their families?
Yeah.
I believe in the art of the mentor. Like when I first got out, Dana Brown was my mentor, and she was like, "Okay, she's making me feel special going to all these meetings as well."
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
We know Dana. Absolutely.
Principles and all that. But she guided me.
Amen.
She showed me the ropes of how to go network. Within that whole year process, we started creating relationships with the principals in the community, the police officers, probation, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I needed a mentor. These young men need mentors.
Right.
These gang members need mentors.
Absolutely.
They need to learn and know the traits.
Right.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Hey, I'm ready to do all bad. I want to do bad."
Amen.
But if we give them resources, they'll be changed.
That's right.
And my mentor, I'm gonna put that out there. His name was Adi Hines.
Okay.
And Adi wasn't from my community.
Okay.
He was from a whole different community.
Okay.
But he showed me that love, man, and took that time, invested that time with me to say, "Hey, you keep bumping your head on this wall, man, you're gonna get the same results." And I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, man, being in them stoops where we don't have nothing, and we always talk about. Because one thing a young person has to understand is that when you're in that situation, when you're in them stoops, when you're locked up, the only thing you think about when you're locked up is being free.
That's right. Get me out of here.
And how are you gonna do it?
Right, exactly.
Amen. So, to each of you, what is your greatest challenge in doing this work? Let's start with you, Arthur.
My greatest challenge right now, I believe, because the community is doing their work, is the systems collaborating with the community because of policy and procedures.
Amen.
They got their certain policies and procedures, and they love the work. They want to be a part of the work on the outside with the media, and okay, this is how we're doing community.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, can we be a part of the work?
Right.
Can we actually go to Camp Barrett? Can we go into juvenile hall?
Thank you.
Can we wrap around these kids while they're in there?
Exactly.
Because if we wrap around these kids while they're in there, we're going to have that much higher success. As Kevin was mentioning, when someone's incarcerated, all they're thinking about is, how am I going to do good? How am I going to get this right? They ain't thinking bad. So that's the perfect opportunity to get in there and create a dialogue that's going to create a path for when they get out.
Right. Amen.
Absolutely. I think my greatest challenge today is working with our so-called leadership.
Okay.
Our so-called leaders.
Okay.
Whose buy-in only ends up with them being compensated at the end.
Right.
Your buy-in has to be for the population you serve.
That's right.
And when you have this buy-in from these people who are identified, and some of them are just identified by the politics that take place here in San Diego.
Right.
They're not identified by us. You know what I mean? They're identified by these so-called politicians to say, hey, well, this person is in this community, they can help. But we're saying, you know, where they come from.
Is that, who are you?
You don't even know what this dude. I know this dude. This dude ain't for us.
Right.
So we have the challenge is having the leadership, man, that cares about, have a sincere concern for the population they serve.
Right. And so I think it boils down to kind of like what we're doing now, you know, educating the community, but also speaking directly to our politicians and those in power to let them know that we ain't going to take that anymore. We're going to organize and we're going to empower the community, and we have power. We're going to use it.
Yes.
You know, we're not going to keep sitting back and allowing you to determine what's best for our community and who is best for our community to do the work. We're going to determine that. And we're going to tell you how the work should be done, and you're going to support it. So that's
Absolutely.
we speak directly to power.
Absolutely.
So, have you? I just want to ask each of you this question, as far as because first of all, both of you are former gang members. Can you tell us what set you formerly from, Kevin and Arthur?
Well, I grew up in Mount Hope, which is called Mount Hope now.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, and it's still today called Neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
which is over off of Market Street.
Mm-hmm.
And that coming up in that neighborhood and not having anything positive
Mm-hmm.
for me to grasp
Mm-hmm.
led me to, you know, it's a love that we have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
First of all, we have to understand that.
Right.
It's a love.
Right.
You know, no
right.
matter how raggedy, how toe up that community is,
You love it.
and the people that we love that community, we love the people that's in that community
right.
because that's who we grew up with.
Right.
But noticing there's a level of a maturity that takes place that says, hey, are you going to be a part of the problem, or are you going to be something different? Are you going to provide some resources? So I want to make sure that those resources are not only in that community, but communities that are in Southeast San Diego that have the same poverty, have the same issues, you know, the same death rate, all those things. So that's my thing.
Amen.
Yes.
Arthur.
I'm a former gang member from East San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Was involved in the gang in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Was raised in the gangbang era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the guns stopped using knives, start using pistols.
So, do you consider yourself first generation or second generation?
Second generation.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's some older gentleman older than me, like Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
He's he's our OG,
Rudy,
Rudy Bones,
he older
former
than me.
gang member, 63 years old, on the right track, doing good.
Right.
He's one of them gang members that is working at NASCO on the grave shifts, and he wants to be involved. He wants to participate, but how can he? Because he needs to support his family.
Exactly.
So
see.
That's the neighborhood that I grew up in. Single mother was there for me, but at the same time she had to work. She had to go provide, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and just that other family outlet, and it just snowballed. And when I do things, I do it full force, and I just went for that neighborhood, for that gang, felt the love. But that love was just another love.
Yeah, exactly. Homie love, we call it.
Yes, and it led me to juvenile hall, prison career, which I've only been out here a total of 6.5 years now. Just total since '91.
Amen.
So that's the gang, and the trick to me is when I paroled in 2007, and I got out, and all these youngsters, because our gang is a generational gang.
Yeah,
like every 10 years, there'll be another clique. Or every 10, 15 years, there'll be another clique. And that's the way the East San Diego is.
Yeah.
But this latest clique, I seen the kids, the fathers now, their sons, be coming from the gang.
Wow. Yeah.
So when I seen that, you know, now these kids are carrying guns. Like, oh man, I remember when you were like 1 years old. Now you're a full-fledged gang member. So that's when I was like, oh man, the pain. Like, this is really, really damaging the community. So that's where my love is at.
Amen.
East San Diego, City Heights, and Passion. But really, since this work first started, it's built towards East San Diego, City Heights, the Southeast, you know, the area with all that, everything. These two areas are the areas of concentration.
Amen. That's right.
That's where we need to do the work.
That's where most of the gang violence and different things take place at. So, and I want to ask each of you this: being gang members, you know, Kevin, neighborhood crib, and you East San Diego. And we begin with you, Brother Kev. Have you all experienced any types of injuries through violence?
Oh man, absolutely. I'll never forget my wake up call. Happened May 5th, 2000. I know the date, man. That's 2006. I'm sorry, not 2006. 1996.
Yeah.
And hanging out. With my homies, and some gentlemen came through, and we wasn't paying attention. Lit it up, man. I was shot 5 times, and I'll tell you something, man. That was one of the most hardest times for me because I wasn't supposed to be here.
Right.
I wasn't supposed to be here. In fact, when my mother, because every time you get shot, they notify your closest family member, and this is my mom. So when they notified my mom and she came to the hospital after my surgeries, the doctor told her, because they have to give you what's called an expert opinion. And the doctor's expert opinion was I wasn't going to make it through the night. I didn't find this out later until my mom shared this with me. But I wasn't going to make it to the night. But I want to share with you the most traumatic thing for me, being gang involved at that time. Because when I was shot, and this is why, and I'm going to, Paradise Valley Hospital. The reason why it's called Death Valley. Come on, I'm gonna keep it 100.
You don't come out.
The reason why they call it Death Valley, I learned, was because they don't have a trauma unit for gunshot wounds.
That's right.
So if you shot with a pistol and someone take you there, the only thing they can do is kind of sustain, patch you up until they transport you to another facility. So when I was transported, my most traumatic experience was when I was transported. And I was gang involved, very gang involved, as you know. And the police came down. Gang police came down. And the level of uncaring that they showed me, the level of, they didn't care if I was going to live or die.
Wow.
In fact, they were hoping that I died because the questioning, the questioning supported that. Hey, Kevin, what's up, man? You want to talk? How does it feel to, you laying there and, being, what that neighborhood like? All these kind of questioning came from people that, of service, who we rely on to help us. But it was because of my behavior. I know that. But even though my behavior was what it was, it got so bad. I tell you, it got so bad. Yeah, it got so bad for the questioning from them that the doctor kicked them out. You got to leave here now. You're doing too much. I'm on the table. I can't breathe. I'm scared to death. And that happened. And so that's my. And I'm not suggesting that. All police are bad.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that because I know some good ones.
Exactly.
But to have that level of
we should learn from that.
Yes.
Yeah, you should learn from that. Absolutely. So that was my experience with violence at the time, and that carried on. Of course, when we get in them stoops, those prison stoops, there's another kind of violence because ain't no guns in there.
Right.
You walking around, you got to care about somebody else's day. They gonna poke you up 37 for the time. So that's my level of
And speaking on that violence, I've been fortunate to just have a little crack on the back of my head.
A little crack, man. That's
But
that's far too much.
I've experienced that traumatic violence in level 4 yards with black and brown, with brown and brown, with black and black, with black against officers, COs, because that's normally the trend that goes down in there, and been a part of it, and the trauma and the meat wagon and everybody just I've seen deaths happen on the yard with Excalibur swords, all that. Like, it's just,
Wow.
it's ugly. And I've been fortunate to be blessed not to be the ones of that being a victim in there.
Exactly, yeah.
But on the injuries of what we're talking about, one case that I do want to bring up is Mr. Robles and his son that we presented right there at the gang commission with the kid and everything. And he was killed about 3 years ago in an alley over there in University on 37th Street. And he was shot. There was another gentleman that was shot. So police department came, police came, helicopters, everybody. And what they did, the two victims, the police department, was they handcuffed them.
Oh,
They
yeah, I heard about
handcuffed
that.
them.
Yeah.
And instead of taking them to the hospital
Yeah.
to try to save their lives,
Yeah.
they were just worried about like handcuffing them, checking out the scene, seeing what's gonna happen, instead of taking them. So one gentleman died. Now, if the police would have grabbed him and took him directly to the hospital, who knows? Maybe he would have lived.
Right. Wow. So that's something else. So, have you guys been keeping up with the violence been taking place in the city of San Diego?
You can't help but it, man, because every time something happens, you either get a phone call from a homie or, now that I'm, matured, I get phone calls from people from other communities saying, hey, man, this happened. And, the family is reaching out, because we want to provide some support to those families.
Right.
That's why I want to just commend you on what you do, because those families who, how do you deal with losing someone, one of your loved ones? How do you wake up in the morning to say they're gone?
Right.
How do you deal with that, man? That's a level of trauma that nobody want to address. And so that, and being in a community where there's not a lot of centers or recreational activities taking place in Mount Hope. Growing up there, I had to kind of go out to Memorial.
Right.
I played football for Balboa. I played baseball for American League over there by Boys and Girls. I was a member of the Boys and Girls Club.
So was I.
So was you. Yeah, so I had to travel over that way, and I had family that lived over there, so it was easy access. But young people today, man, have to feel like you care about them.
Right.
They notice automatically that fake and phony stuff. No matter what agency you're working with, they know when it's not real. So, yeah.
I've been keeping up with the violence, and I'm actually a little terrified for this coming up summer.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
The last summer, our strategy was, everybody just wrap around these kids. Like, we have an event coming up, and we're just debating on when it should take place. And we came up with the decision of doing it when the summer starts.
Right.
When the summer starts, getting them all there, getting them all engaged. How can we wrap around them? How can we assist them? Getting to connect to careers, metro, jobs. Like, what can we do that's going to give them that thirst of guiding them for another 2-3 months to get into school.
Just to get through the summer.
That's it.
Get through the summer.
That's it. Just the summer.
Wow.
And we need that credible resource that's going to create that.
Amen.
So the YMCA, they have a...
Is that the one on University?
Yeah.
But
once you become a member there, then you can become a member wherever.
Okay.
So that's the beauty part of it. But they got some certain programs for youth, but they're the age of, I believe, 12, 13, 14. But we're just going to have to set up a meeting with them and just talk about that. But that's something that should be a priority for the summer. Right. And we should go with it at full force.
Amen. So, I want to talk about the trends in gang activity in San Diego County. Are you guys noticing a difference than maybe a few years ago of some of the violence and things that have been taking place?
What I've noticed since I first started doing the work is I've started seeing a lot of these taggers, right? And my job and the mentors that we work with is that they stay that or get another trend, because if they become tanger, transform into gang member, then we're having a situation.
Right.
So in East San Diego area, you got all these little pockets. This little tag group, this little tag group, this little tag group, and then you have the gang overall.
Right.
So my job, because I know the ins and outs, May 19th is right around the corner, and that's the day where everybody gets together, and then there's like initiation and all that, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to keep all these youngsters and all these taggers from being a part of that.
Oh, gotcha.
So, but gangs ain't what they used to be.
Right.
But then you have all these little pockets, and that's where the conflicts come in.
Little cliques and different things.
Yeah,
like
little
that.
cliques. So if there's personal conflicts, then that could lead to violence and murders, et cetera, et cetera.
Then gangs start getting, yeah. And that's how it always starts. Brother Cat.
Absolutely. It's totally different from days of when we were gang involved. One of our mottos for Leaders of Change is, one of our mission statement is, you can't use old curriculums with new behaviors.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
You see it on my car. You can't.
Right.
Because things are constantly changing. You have to have your pulse on the community. And I know we're wrapping this up, so I want to give out some solutions that I came up with. First of all, we have to make sure that our investment include making sure young people have access to accredited programs that lead to jobs that have longevity. Because these young people who are involved in these gangs, man, they want a job, they want an opportunity too. So we have to make sure that when we train them or we get this training for them, the investment has to be long term.
Exactly.
The other thing is the people who are assigned to empower our young people, they have to have their pulse on the community and have a sincere concern for their well-being.
That's right. Thank you.
People know when you just come to work. People know when you just want a job. But when you have that sincere concern, they notice that stands out.
That's right.
You have to care about them, man.
That's right.
The other thing is, when explaining to young people that are gang involved, you have to make sure that gangs and facts that are. Make sure you include facts that catch their attention.
Right.
That goes along with using old curriculums. What I tell young people, what catches their attention, who are young men, I'm saying, man, I tell them this, and a light bulb goes off. Your behavior is going to lead you to be around a man. Talking about these penitentiaries for the rest of your life. And a light bulb goes off and say, "Oh, wait a minute! Ain't no women gonna be in there. I ain't gonna have to be able to have no girlfriend or nothing." A picture. They start thinking about, "Whoa, wait a minute! I don't want to be around a man for the rest of my life." You know what I mean? I want to have some babies or something, or identify their queens. The other thing is trauma. What's put in place for trauma for our young people?
Right.
The young brothers and sisters, for the families. We have to continuously do that. I know that you work with a lot of agencies, Pastor Bowser, who deal with that. So we have to have that in place. And last but not least, we have to stop using so-called community leaders whose buy-in only compensate their pockets.
Amen.
We see all the time. We see all the time. People our ages or above, in their 50s and 60s, come in and say, "Well, we need to do this, we need to do that." Hold up, wait a minute, man. That's over with.
Right.
You need to sit yourself down and listen to the voice of our young people. Those are my solutions.
All right. You got anything you want to add?
And
Arthur?
solutions is love, engagement, breaking that mentality out of personal experience, that criminal addictive thinking, breaking that cycle with that quick excitement, not thinking about your consequences. And the way to break that mentality with these kids is new experiences. Putting them in leadership positions where they use their voice.
Right.
Not only that, but taking them to places they've never experienced, things that shock factors that'll transform their life.
Amen. That's very, very important. Now, how do we? Now you guys come up with some excellent ways. You guys are the experts. You're out there. You know. So I take this to heart what you guys are saying here. But how do we take every opportunity to make the ending gang violence agenda, which we're talking about here, ending gang violence, widely known to agencies and communities? Because right now, many don't see gang violence as a problem. So how do we get that message out there that that goes and to all the agencies and reach all these folks that the bureaucracy was talking about, of folks who can make the decisions and can champion our cause. You know, we need some champions in politics. We need some champions in these agencies that can help champion some of the very ideas that we came up right here. How do we do that?
First, I think that we also always have to use our community champions, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the agencies who don't see gang violence as a problem choose intentionally to not address it.
Okay.
Because if I play like it's not there,
Right.
I don't have to address it.
Thank you.
But it's not going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
You have
That's
to
for
have.
sure.
You have to care
That is
about our
for
young
sure.
people.
And I was thinking about this while the question, and because we see the situation, the circumstance, right offhand.
Right. Right.
You know, we see the blood, we see the shed, we see the aggression, we see the pain, and these people that are in positions see this through the media.
Right. Right.
And the media displays it however they want to.
That's
display
right.
it. So maybe what we got to do is create our own little media, our own little storyline, where we have it in a narrative where it's expressed in the right way, where, look, this is what's going on. So however we could do that,
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
but maybe that's an idea of expressing it to where they could get the picture.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you know, this is what we're doing right now is these
Absolutely.
mics are hot
Yeah.
and live and we
Yeah.
record it
Yeah.
and get the word out.
Yeah.
And this is where, because I really believe that what both you guys just said, and I think you getting that message out there is important to create our own type of media, whether it's through social media, wherever, YouTube. We have a lot of different avenues, but we have to get the community come together to network, to share, and to really create a buzz about this, because once you reframe the narrative, you know, you can. It's implanted. That seed is planted in these folks' hearts and minds to know, okay, this is my talking point. You know, I got to address this because this is an issue. And not only do they have to address it, but pretty soon they are confronted with the fact, what have you done? You're talking about it, but what have you done? And then that way we can hold their feet to the fire and make sure that something get done.
That's
Absolutely.
That's an excellent idea. Like having a collaboration from different organizations,
Right.
Social media, Facebook,
Right.
having a protocol to it.
Right.
So there's a certain criteria that we all meet. We don't cross that line, and just expressing it, comments, dialogue. This is what's happening, and just showing it to the people that are able to do something about it.
Right.
Speaking of social media, man, I just want to give a shout
Go
out
ahead.
to the Southeast Memorial page, which addresses, those who have been going on to
Okay.
gang violence. If you don't know about Southeast Memorial page, there's over 2,000 members
Wow.
who are from Southeast who are on the page. I'm one of the moderators.
Okay.
Shout out to Brother Daryl Muhammad, who is the founder of that page. Olivia Dixon, Monica Kelly. Good people, man, who care about, have a community concern. Shout out to my sister Layla Aziz.
Okay.
who's doing
Yeah,
good
yeah.
things, man, as well. So I just want to put that out there. Social media is long term. It's today. If you don't, it's today. That's how you get people sit on social media sometimes all day, man, and get things out there, and people are listening. So
Yeah, and in closing, I guess since on that note,
Yeah.
question I want to ask you guys is, what role do you think social media plays in the spike of gang violence that's happening and has happened? And
I'm a Facebook. That's where I do all my engagement.
amen.
And through Facebook, I believe we have saved lives. I believe we have on the comments, but on the messages, hey, I need to talk. This is something that's happening. Like, I need your advice. Okay, now pick up the phone and talk, and we get to where we need to get to.
Right.
So social media, it disrupts violence. Social media makes things happen. Social media gathers groups of people. Social media, it's what's in. And before I end, I just want to acknowledge the Youth Empowerment Community Wraparound team,
Amen.
Pastor Sus and Robert and Junior, Reyna, Joaquin, Michelle. The list is so long,
know.
but I want to just acknowledge everybody, all the love all you guys, and we're doing good work.
Amen.
Absolutely. And the wraparound services, man, you guys are doing good work, and I want to give a shout out to Linda Towsley because Linda Towsley, man, she's the business, man. And
She has a heart for it.
we just started working with Meadowbrook Apartments over there. We have a program in there now, Metro, and
Okay.
she got that thing started, and she's doing some wonderful things in the community.
She's passionate.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's passionate. I love that woman.
So you guys think that you know, some of the violence that we're seeing happen now that stems from social media, as far as folks banging on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and
I use it social media
For positive.
for the positive, but I've also seen it like at a full-time negative. I've
Yeah.
seen incidents already happen, violence behind she said, this and that. So I've seen it firsthand.
right.
It can be used in a good or a bad
In a
way.
bad way. It amazes me how our young people who are gang involved or who use their social media, Facebook,
Yeah.
putting on all the fights and all this stuff, and then when police come to their door, they're like, "What happened?"
Mm-hmm.
Man, you just put everything on Facebook, man.
You
What
started
mean?
it.
Like, you started it. You wanted them at your door.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not
biggest
too
fit.
smart, man. I mean, it's just, I don't understand it. It amazes me, man.
So that takes really like a full-time job itself on
Absolutely.
social media
Absolutely.
to what Arthur was talking about is disrupting the violence right there on social media, because that's the other thing that people don't realize, that, you know, just like the gang, you do the investigations through Facebook, they have to understand that piece right there is important in disrupting violence, and all of us are playing a role in that
if we had a
to disrupt it.
paid position for the Southeast region, paid position for City Heights, East San Diego region, like that's all they do, and
Right.
they get paid for it, and there's somebody that has some credibility, lives are going to be saved.
That's
just
right.
behind that.
That's right. That's right. So we don't realize that. So I want to thank you, Mr. Kevin Henderson and Mr. Arthur Soriano, for being on our show. It was a pleasure, and it was good to have you on. Of course, we're going to have you back because we got to continue this discussion even on through the
Thank
summer.
you for having me. Thank you for having me,
Thank
man.
you for accepting to be
Appreciate
on.
it.
Yes.
And so I like to encourage all our listeners, as I always try to encourage you and invite you. I haven't seen some of you yet, but I want to invite you up to our church service, our worship service on Saturdays at 11:30 a.m., 610 South 30th Street in San Diego, 92113. So thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another great show on What's Happening Now with your host, Bishop Bowser, on KBLKRadio.com. May Yahweh bless you.